Yes. Trustee Biederman?
Here.
Trustee Cox? Here. Trustee DiLorenzo is here. Trustee Fishman is not present. Trustee Mulman? Here. Trustee Pasco?
Here.
Trustee Senate?
Here. Thank you. And moving on, we will review the draft of the meeting minutes for our January 20th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes, or regular board meeting. Are there any corrections or additions that anyone noticed? All right, none noted. May we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve minutes.
I second.
All right, was motioned by trustee Biederman and seconded by trustee Senate. Secretary DiLorenzo, may we have a roll call?
Yes. Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Fishman is not present. Trustee Mulman?
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Cox?
Yes. All right, so moved and approved. Moving on to public comment. Meeting attendees who have signed the visitor public comment registration form and wish to address the Board of Trustees may do so now. It appears we have no public comment tonight. So moving on to presentations, of which there are none, which moves us to the treasurer's report from trustee Biederman.
Okay. Thanks. I will summarize the report that Sandra DiSepolo has prepared. On the revenue side, we had $613,150 in property taxes. As everybody knows, they don't come in straight line. They don't even come in necessarily when we even think they will. But due to the delay, we had a large chunk that came in December and a smaller payment in January. We also had almost $12,000 in replacement taxes and just shy of $24,000 in interest income and operating expenses. As we kind of talk about every month, the expenses are not all the expenses are on a straight line. So the fact that you may see in profit and loss changes month over month, that's normal. We are at 58% of the year gone by. Our expenses at 55% of budgeted. So that's pretty much just where we would expect. Notable exceptions, as Sandra has pointed out, are periodicals, digital resources, memberships, computer, building supplies, vehicle. Those are all things that obviously do not come in on a straight line throughout the months. We did have our special reserves expenses so far just shy of $90,000 are at 30% or 36% of the projections. The bulk of it was for the asbestos abatement project, and the majority of the expenses, that's what the majority of them were for. Expenses over 10 grand in the past month were Amazon, Overdrive, computer services, wellness, insurance network. That's pretty much, we see those pretty much every month. Also, payroll items are, those are actually on a straight line because that we can budget on a monthly basis. While December and January were in the black, it's not predicted that the future months will necessarily be in the black. They'll be in the red, but that's because we just don't get our revenue on a straight line basis. But that's probably the way it's always been. Since our last meeting, the Fed held interest rates steady. They did not lower them, so still at target rate of 3.5. So any CDs that we have that are reinvesting should probably be kind of constant with the yields that have been offered for the past month or so. So that's pretty much all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Do we know if the next installment of taxes is expected to be delayed?
I was just looking this up. I received an email today from the Cook County Treasurer's Office, and it says that
we can expect on-time first installment tax bills and that there should be prompt distribution to taxing agencies. So that would be a change from what we saw this fall. The first installment property tax bills, which are for the 2025 levy, will be mailed by March 2nd and will be due April 1st. And that property owners can begin to pay online for free as soon as February 20th.
That was on my mind as well, because given that things, so that should be on time and we should get the income on time for the fiscal year?
By the end of this fiscal year, yes, we should be whole.
So there shouldn't be a gap between when the taxes are due and,
Right.
okay. Fingers crossed.
That said, I will
Yeah.
add that a group, there was an article in the Chicago Tribune that was a cover page about the impact of the late disbursements to public libraries relative to this last cycle. The second installment payments that came in late last year were months behind, and a number of libraries that do not have a general fund operating balance were getting dangerously close to needing to do a tax anticipation warrants or provide other means. Some agencies were reporting that they were holding back expenses, that they were not able to maintain their normal operating as a result of that. And there was a petition that was circulated to the Cook County Treasurer's Office saying that, public libraries and other entities that do not have an adequate fund balance can be adversely affected by this. Another aspect of this is that we missed out on the interest income that would have been associated with the on-time distribution of those funds. So we understand that Cook County had a number of issues with the technology and software that was associated with those disbursements, but there are definitely sweeping impacts that happen as resulted from that, and we're going to continue to put pressure on them to make sure that we get the distributions when they are due. But
Yeah,
they
you
tell
never
us
really
that,
know
yeah.
what you get out of them, especially with this email that says that people can, you can, for your second installment, you can make yourself a payment plan. And that's probably because you're not getting them 6 months later and maybe people aren't able to pay it all. So who knows if they're going to say, well, due to the fact that many people enrolled in the payment plan, you never know what to expect. So, but it is promising that they told us that
Yeah.
to expect them on time.
Yep. The spring distribution should be on time.
May we have a move to approve the bills and salaries? Oh, I'm sorry, we still have to do I have to do
We're
check
good.
detail? We're good? Okay. I move approval of the bills and I'm sorry, may we have a motion to approve the bills and salaries and check detail for January 2026 as presented?
I move approval of the bills and salary check detail for January 2026 as presented.
I second.
Right, it was motioned by trustee Mulman and seconded by trustee DiLorenzo. May we have a roll call?
Yes. Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Fishman is not present. Trustee Mulman?
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Cox?
Yes. All right, thank you. Moving on to action items.
Okay, we have just one action item on the agenda for this month's meeting, and this comes with the news that we need to reschedule our March board meeting. A public act was passed late last year, effective January 1, 26. This is in reference to Public Act 104-0438, which is an amendment to the Open Meetings Act, and the Open Meetings Act has a new provision in it that bars units of government from holding public meetings on an election day. And the schedule that we regularly adopt every year to hold our meeting on the third Tuesday of the month just so happens to have coincided with this meeting here in March. Our next meeting is a month from today, March 17th of 26, and that happens to be the primary election day. So we need to reschedule our meeting, and in this busy room, we did not have a lot of dates that we could choose from that would align, but we have a date that we have proposed as Wednesday, March 25th, and we will hold that meeting, the regular March meeting, from the 17th on that day with your approval at our regular time of 6:30 p.m. So I am recommending that we be in compliance with this public act and that we reschedule our regular meeting away from that election day. And I will entertain your motion to do so.
And that works for everybody? Sure.
Yes.
All right. May we have a motion to approve the rescheduling of the March 2026 regular meeting of the Board of Library Trustees to Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, in compliance with PA 104-0438.
I move approval of rescheduling the March 2026 regular meeting of the Board of Library Trustees to Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, in compliance with PA 104-0438.
I second.
All right, thank you. It was motioned by Trustee Senate and seconded by Trustee Pasco. May we have a roll call?
Yes, Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Fishman is not present. Trustee Mulman?
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Cox?
Yes. So moved. All right, moving on. It is Anthony. We have the director's report.
Okay, thank you. My report, complete report is in the packet, and I will try to briefly summarize the highlights of the activities for this past month, January, early February of 26. Did a little bit of a different format, and I'm going to kind of work with that. So the very first page of my report is kind of a quick snapshot of some highlights from the report with the rest of the report to follow. So I'm going to kind of start with that. So the quick highlights that we wanted to bring to your attention this month, the library saw nearly 22,000 visitors in January, averaging 727 unique users each day. We hosted 94 programs last month with over 3,200 attendees, and we welcomed 122 new cardholders. Our physical circulation rebounded this past month with over 50,000 items checked out, and our overdrive circulation had its third highest statistics ever with nearly 21,000 borrows. Our Canopy and Hoopla digital streaming platforms both saw record borrows this month, so their highest circs ever, with Canopy at over 1,300 plays and Hoopla with nearly 2,000 borrows. So high engagement in a very cold month with our digital resources. In other news, we welcomed 2 new staff members to our team this month. David Whittingham joined us as a part-time adult services librarian, and Sarah DeHaan has joined us as our technical services manager, and we're thrilled to have her aboard. Our celebrated shelver and welcome desk assistant, Peter Sandstrom, announced his retirement this month as well, having served the library since December of 2019. We're going to miss Peter and his good cheer and his sidekick, Ralph the Stuffed Bunny, always there to greet us at the library when he comes in. But Peter is going to continue to lead our Mighty Pawns Chess Club, so we're thrilled to still have him on our team in that capacity. We're also excited to welcome Rachel Rothy into her new role as a full-time specialty position as an advisory librarian in the Adult Services Department. Rachel has been contributing in a part-time generalist position for nearly a year, and previous to that, she was in our circulation department. And she is now sharing the duties of developing services, resources, and training for enhancing engagement between visitors and library materials. This is the first time that we've had a dedicated advisory librarian title at the library, and you've seen some of her work with some of the shelf talkers and promotional design that she's been doing for our collections this past year. So we're thrilled to have Rachel in her new capacity. On the side of programming, we had a number of popular programs this past month. We had nearly 50 events alone in the Youth Services Department with over 1,600 attendees. We hosted big programs, including our Winter Joy Party with Olaf the Snowman and our K-pop Demon Hunters program that was tailored towards younger fans. We had done one as an interdepartmental program late last year that was a booming hit. And this one was, I would say, even bigger with 165 attendees that were significantly younger. On January 19th, we had, again, 165 people in this room attending our Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. We had participants who participated in making 179 greeting cards, 172 bracelets, 20 teen and 22 children's activity kits for patients of Lurie's Children's Hospital. We hosted a series of creative programs in the studio, including scratch game programming and beginning sewing programs. And we've officially certified 37 patrons on our ever-popular embroidery machine. Finally, we wrapped our big winter reading club and Wilmette Reads programs this past Sunday. So I don't have the final reports compiled for all of that, but we can report that we did accomplish a number of our goals even in January, including over 200 active participants in Wilmette Reads at the time of this report. We're going to share more details about those two programs in next month's report. In terms of staff training, on January 7th, the Wilmette Police Department's co-responder unit, which includes Community Relations Officer Carly Watson and social worker Kevin Akram, visited the library as part of a joint committee meeting with the community engagement team, the IDEA team, as well as the person in charge staff. And that presentation was tailored to meet the needs of the library and included sharing valuable resources and responses to staff questions pertaining to safety and patrons in need. We're really excited that the village is supporting this program and a number of the ways that Wilmette Police Department is leading by example and providing more inclusive services, including their recent advertisement of their Blue Envelope program, which I want to give a special shout out to tonight. It was a challenging month for winter weather, and that led to some building work. We reported at our last meeting that we had a roof drain that had broken in the fiction room, and that project was completed this past month when the contractors removed a 4-foot section of iron pipe, and then we had that wall subsequently repaired and replaced back to its original condition. We had also mentioned that we were going to be installing a new drinking fountain down here in the auditorium, and we did, and that's around the corner. We're also looking at updating that space and potentially replacing the VCT floor that's adjacent to the bathroom lobby, so stay tuned for some more improvements. You'll note that it's much brighter over there now, and there's a fresh coat of paint, so we're trying to do little improvements when the opportunity presents. One of the persistent challenges that we've had in the building this past month and this winter has been our VRF system. I've mentioned that there are multiple HVAC systems that control this building, and this one is a little bit more challenging for us to maintain. So this one particularly relates to the study room spaces on the second floor, the adjacent periodicals room, and offices that are in that area on the second floor, the main entrance of the library, including the vestibule, the circulation department, the adult services, recent arrivals area, as well as the adult services office. The VRF system has been having some communication challenges with its circuit board, and that required a replacement system installation this past month. That didn't ultimately resolve the problem, so you will note that there is still some signage up in those spaces to let folks know that when the weather's inclement, the conditions in those spaces would be less than ideal. We're hoping to have this resolved within the next month, but just wanted you all to have a general awareness about what we've been dealing with that older system. So I'll pause there and I'll talk a little bit more about some other things that we're doing in the building because it is a busy month with our building activity. I've been reporting about our collection revitalization project these last several months, and we're about to kick off the major work of this calendar year, which is the attention of the first floor. So this week, and when you all walked in the library today, you probably noticed, hopefully, that right adjacent to the circulation desk, one of the walls that we've been planning to take down to a counter height has been addressed and has been reinstalled. And this has made our circulation desk much more visible, both to the public coming in as well as to the staff looking out that door to the public entering. So it's improved safety and the basic access to the staff at that location. We also took down the large wall that was in front of the self-checkout station that's adjacent to the shelving that currently houses our hot picks collection. If you've had a hold at the library in the last 6 months, you got an email in the last week that notified that we're going to be replacing the shelving unit that the hot picks are currently on, and that new shelving unit is going to be the site of where your holds are going to be located beginning next Monday, the 23rd. So on the morning of Monday the 23rd, we will be removing that piece of furniture. And really early, Marcos is going to be here at 4 in the morning to help to accommodate that project so that we have very little impact to the public. And we are going to have our contractor resolve that space, and our new shelving will be installed shortly on the heels of that, with the new holds hopefully being on the shelf and ready to go for our public right when we open. So that is a big part of this project. We also have a couple other little pieces that are associated with this that are going to be done this week, and that includes moving that adjacent bench that's next to that shelving unit that we're going to be working on next Monday, as well as in the recent arrivals area, there is a built-in countertop that we've been using for display purposes, and we've had a self-checkout unit on that. And that is going to be demoed this week as well as we prepare that wall for more communications. We'll install some slat wall in that location here in the next month. And that will open up that thoroughfare. So it will add about another 2 feet to that space in a very busy path where all of our patrons are crossing. So we're looking forward to those improvements. Late this week, we are also going to be seeing an installation of a replacement electrical fireplace in the recent arrivals area. We had converted that fireplace from a gas fireplace to electric in support of our sustainability initiatives a little over a year ago. But our replacement didn't quite meet the expectations of the staff and some members of the public who you've probably seen some comment forms about this past year. So in an effort to make everyone happy and to make that space look more authentic like a real fireplace, we're getting a new fireplace on Friday. And the other project that we're going to be completing this week actually is kind of bridging this evening and tomorrow morning, and that is our reupholstery project. Late last year, we sent off youth services vinyl furnishings for reupholstery, and those are going to be delivered tomorrow morning. And at the same time that they make that delivery, they're also going to be picking up the items that we'll be reupholstering on the first floor, which include the black and white bent arm chairs that are in the recent arrivals area, as well as the fiction room. And we've also noted in the past that the banquettes that are built in the media room have been wearing. Having been in the sun these last 15 years, we want to make sure that we get those replaced with some new furnishings. So that will be in a period of transition for the next several weeks, and then we'll see that reinstalled probably right around the time that we'll be making the next phase of improvements to that space in the media room when it is transformed into our new books room. So that will be the third phase of our revitalization project. That will be coming later this spring. And the update there is that we'll be making the final selections for the furnishings for that space, hopefully by the end of this month. With that order placed, we will then be able to start planning for what that space is going to look like, which will include moving the collections that are currently in the media room down to the lower level north room, disassembling all of those furnishings that are currently in that space, reassembling them in the lower level, transferring all of those disc media items down to that space, and then we will have a bare floor that we can then replace the carpeting in the current media room, soon to be the new books room. And then hopefully right on the heels of that carpeting being completed, we'll be able to receive the installation of the new shelving fixtures, whereupon we can move the new books into that space and have a grand reopening of that room just in time to launch our summer reading program. So lots of activity ramping up here over the course of the next few months. And some improvements to those spaces. I have one last item, and then I'll pause for any questions or comments. The last thing I wanted to share with you is that we were thrilled to report this month that Wilmette Library has received a $10,000 grant from the Carnegie Corporation. As you may know, Wilmette Public Library was originally a Carnegie library, and it was a seed donation from the Carnegie Corporation back in 1902 in the amount of $11,000 that led to the construction of our very first library. That money doesn't go as far today. We will be applying our $10,000 donation grant to support our collection and to continue to develop our collections. So not a major capital development this time, but we're still nevertheless thrilled that they recognize the legacy of the Carnegie Libraries and that there are still over 1,200 Carnegie libraries that are still in existence to this day. And this is all part of the Carnegie Corporation's celebration of our nation's 250th anniversary this year, and how libraries continue to support the values of the Declaration of Independence. So, with that, that concludes my report. Do you all have any questions or comments from that?
So one of the highlights for me was watching the video of the stuffed animal sleepover. It's on page 18, if anyone hasn't watched it. It's adorable. It's brilliant, actually.
We have a very creative team. This is one of my favorite days of the year, when all the kids invite their stuffies to sleep over at the library, and the stuffies go wild, and they travel throughout the library and get to do all the things. And they help us.
Yes, and they get into a little trouble, but they use the computers and check out books. It's great. I'm assuming all the stuffies were represented in the video.
Yes,
It's
definitely.
been going on for a long time, because I remember my kids doing it, and my son's in college.
Yeah, I think we did it too.
These-
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, the program engagement numbers are really impressive, and some of them are like in the hundreds.
Yes.
And the Hibbard Park Story Walk at 360? Is that?
So passive programs, it's hard to get an actual count, but
Mhm.
recognizing, these spaces are frequently attended, the Park District helps us to know, what kind of traffic these spaces are getting. So, yeah.
Wow, well done.
I had a quick question. You were mentioning that Marcus has to be here at 4 a.m. Thank you. So when you're moving all of those materials, that's a lot of materials to move. Is most of that happening after hours, or are you quietly managing that while patrons are here?
So the big project that we're doing on the next Monday, the 23rd, is really the moving of the Hot Picks collection, which is what is distinct to that specific shelving unit, and that's the only shelving unit that's moving there. So while it is still a move, that one's a little bit smaller, and that will be taking place possibly over the weekend. It may be bare for a period of time so that it's ready to roll first thing in the morning. That said, the big move with the media room down to the lower level is going to be coordinated with a moving company. This one, we have done some smaller moves in that space before, and we can do a few things, off hours or even in quiet times of the day. But a major move like that one, taking an entire room and department and relocating it to another space, requires far more coordination. And that collection will likely be inaccessible for a period of time intermittently as that company does that. Hallett is known for doing library moves. They're experts in this. They've got a system. They have patented equipment that they use for, it's really exciting if you've ever seen these videos. They can grab an actual shelving unit and lift it with all the books on it and move it. We can't do that because we're going from one floor to another, and those long shelving units don't fit in an elevator. So we have to box up all the materials that are on those shelves, then demo all of those shelving units, move them into the elevator, take them to their space, reassemble them, and then unbox and put all the things back. So there will be a period of time where there is going to be a little bit of inaccessibility of those collections to the public, but staff will still have ability to a degree to get some of those items if they're not immediately accessible during that time. But it will require a bit more coordination for that move.
Yeah, I was hoping that was, no, your staff wasn't doing
Yeah,
that. in
we're
the middle
gonna
of the night, so-
outsource that one, yeah.
Does any of this work involve asbestos or handling or exposure of asbestos?
No, we
that's
have,
all done.
we have resolved that, so we're thrilled to have that taken care of.
Thank you.
All right,
All for the director's
that
report.
concludes that.
Which then means we're moving on to committee reports and rails.
Okay, so for the last 11 months or so, I've been reporting on IMLS and the defunding and dismantling, and IMLS is back on track. It is fully funded through 2027 with increases. So, very good news. And they've opened up their grant cycle for the various grants that they provide to museums and libraries. So that was very good news. There wasn't much else at the last meeting that pertained to public libraries. A lot of the focus was on special libraries, which are also part of Rails. So that was actually kind of interesting to learn about. Just a few things that Rails has available to member libraries. One has to do with it's being called the awareness and challenges of ebook pricing. It's very expensive, and patrons don't realize or understand why a library can't have more copies available. And so Rails has actually prepared a little brochure for any member libraries that would like to look at it to explain how the pricing works. And there are efforts to try to keep the prices down. There's a lot of advocacy behind that. So it's just important to understand. You just can't have as many as you want. It's basically, I think, I took a look at the brochure. It's actually, it'll explain that it costs about 4 times as much for an electronic resource as it does for a physical book, because the library has to pay for it, and it'll be limited either by time or by the number of times that it's accessed. And when that period is ended, if the library wants to keep it, you have to pay it again, the same price. So just lots of resources available to help libraries explain that. A reminder just to keep looking at the deals and discount pages, because so many of these things are so expensive and there's so few providers. Rails has a staff of people who, not a huge staff, just a couple people, who that's their job, is to constantly negotiate with vendors and try to reduce the prices of these resources. Last year, they saved Rails member libraries about $2 million. They think this year it'll be about $3 million. So lots going on there. One of the big ones was the work that led to the state library providing the funding for EBSCO, which is free, which is great. I think it was $5 million that they spent to do that. And the other reminder is to patrons, anybody watching, trustees, keep looking at the Explore More Illinois in the library website. There are constantly new venues being added to it. It's not just little museums, it's big museums, it's parks. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra is in there. A lot of the big, Chicago things, but there's also like the Abraham Lincoln Museum, Museum of Contemporary Art, the Studebaker Theater is showing a musical. You can get a discount on tickets by using your library pass. There's a dinosaur museum in Kenosha, which is free, but there's a pass for a discount at the gift shop, because I think if you're going to go all the way to the dinosaur museum, you probably have to look at the gift shop. So anyway, so lots of good stuff, and just a reminder to, before you go out and do something, just take a quick look. So that's all I have.
That's a great plug. Your library card is the most valuable card in your wallet. All right. I will just add a note from ILA that this spring, the Reaching Forward Conference will be at the Stevens Center as usual. It's a conference that's dedicated more towards the support staff in the library. We're going to be sending a number of staff to that, and there are also opportunities for trustees if you're interested. So I'll send some information along about that to you all. Shall we move on to our other committee report?
Yes, Policy Committee.
Okay. So this past Friday, February 13th, the Policy Committee met, and this was our first meeting of this fiscal year. And our topic was to review proposed updates and amendments to policy. We had a number of updates to existing policy, as well as the addition of 2 entirely new chapters of policy for review and development. So the primary topic of the discussion was the review of draft policies associated with our digital and maker resources, which are not just those resources that are managed by the digital and maker resources services team, but anything that relates to digital and maker resources, including the library's wireless network, our website, and other associated topics. We have an associated appendix with that talks about how those resources are used. Many of these procedures have been in place for years, but we haven't had official policy behind them, so we're excited to have this in development and under discussion for review and approval at a future meeting. The other entirely new policy chapter is on privacy, and we did spend a good deal of time discussing this chapter in particular, especially with relation to our proposal to add a section related to artificial intelligence. We're going to keep workshopping that particular policy and the details associated with it. We may have another policy committee meeting in the future to review an updated version of that document, unless we're able to move forward a little bit more quickly with that. We likely won't be including that on the agenda for approval at the March 25th meeting. But we will have a few items on the agenda for the March 25th meeting, and so I'll briefly tell you a little bit about what was included in that discussion. So we have an update to the board bylaws, the same public act that had revisions to the Open Meetings Act that required us to change our meeting date earlier in this meeting. Also had an update to it that allowed a change for attendance of an elected official to attend a meeting via a non-physical means. I'm really botching how I could report all of that, made it sound so complicated. If you are an active member of, if you are in performance of active military duty or a service member, you can attend a meeting not physically, and so we need to update the bylaws to allow that. That's a small change. We're going to go ahead and reapprove the board bylaws when we do that little update. We also did a fairly omnibus review of Policy 3, which is the library operations policy. We had a number of notes in our margins about what we wanted to make improvements on in this policy, and when we were looking to add 2 additional chapters to this policy, we noted that we wanted to add a couple of these updates. So we did spend a good bit of time talking about those changes, and I'll briefly summarize what we're doing. So the 2 new sections of that policy that we're adding, again, are for services that the library has previously offered, but we have not had official policy to guide our guidelines. And so those 2 new policies are notary services and proctoring services. And we've got a set of procedures for how we will provide that service. We also have updated sections related to our code of conduct, the use of library facilities, grounds, and services in reference to a resolution that we passed last November. Staff has workshopped a new food and drink in the library buildings policy that's clearer and easier for staff to enforce and manage. We've made some updates to our photography, audio, and video recording policy. We were not in complete compliance with recognizing that all eligible service animals. We did not include reference to miniature horses. So our animals policy will allow miniature horses in performance of service to come into the library. We have a couple petty updates to our information services policy, as well as some procedural changes to our public use of study rooms policy. Those were the major topics that we discussed. I think that we're probably going to move forward with the changes for policies, the bylaws, Policy 3, Policy 10, and Appendix 10 for review and approval at the March 25th meeting. You can find all of those materials on the same website as the materials for this evening's meeting, which is our board page. The whole packet and all of those policies are posted there for review. Most of our board, 6 of 7 trustees, were present at that meeting. Does anyone have anything that they want to add or follow up on about the policy committee meeting?
There was a lot to review. And I do think everything was pretty much ready to go besides the policy, which will, or the privacy, which will continue to.
Yeah.
And I would just add that I think the topics that we discussed warrant more discussion given the complexity and that they're emerging and they're evolving, and they warrant just extra attention.
Yeah, due diligence for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think that once we do go through that review, I would recommend that we give it one more review with our legal team to make doubly sure that we've done our due diligence. So as a matter of course, the procedure for policy review at Wilmette Library is that staff workshops policy, vets the policy. A lot of it comes up from staff from an operations side when appropriate, especially these ones that we're reviewing this time. And that once we've reviewed it with staff and I've gone through this process, I then go through a review with our legal team to make sure that we're fully in compliance with the law before we make a presentation in a public meeting with those draft policies. But we'll likely go through another review before we adopt. Okay.
I think that wraps up committee reports, which moves on to information items and communication, which I believe are being circulated. New business, of which we have none.
Does anyone have any new business? Okay.
Business, which brings us to adjournment. I move that the board adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
so. Adjourned at
7:11.
7:11.
Thank you all.